this computer. All right, great. Kia ora, everyone. Welcome to our second of our new mid-afternoon pick-me-ups, which are essentially, we used to do lunchtime learnings, but I've had some cool conversations with people around honouring lunch breaks and time away from screens and getting outside and things like that. So I'd suggested that we provide our lunchtime learnings in a new format of a mid-afternoon pick-me-up. So something to inspire you in the afternoon, and particularly this week before we may be heading away for Matariki weekend. If you are traveling, safe travels. I'm Sarah. Kia ora, everyone. I am the membership coordinator. I keep saying new, trying to not say new membership coordinator because it's been some time, but I may not have met all of you yet, or you might not recognize me as a Zero Waste Network person. And if you have any questions about memberships or anything, we can chat about that after I stop the recording at the end. Just let me know in the chat. We're very lucky to have two people speaking today and sharing, and then we'll do some, we'll do a Q&A for each of them afterwards. And both of these people presented at the WasteMINZ conference, and we're very grateful that you've come to share your presentations with the network and friends here virtually. I did also want to start with this really cool karakia that I'm trying to learn because it is a really beautiful intention. No mai tēnei rā, me ona hua katoa, he whakaaro pai ka whakatō, he hua pai ka tipu mai, he painga mō te katoa, homie huie tai kia. And that is, we welcome this day and all it offers. If we act from good thinking, good things may grow for the benefit of all, which I love as a nice intention for what we're about to hear today, and maybe be inspired for our mahi going forward. So first up, I'm going to invite Sue Coutts to share her one of the best named presentations at WasteMINZ, I might add, playing whack-a-mole with incinerators. Thank you, Sue, for all of your work on this topic, and for those who are joining this call from wherever you've also been championing regeneration instead of incineration. So I'll hand over to you, Sue.
I'm just going to quickly whiz to the start. I was practicing before and I've gone to the end straight away. So, okay, so I'm hoping you guys can see that. Is that working?
Yes.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks for taking time on your Thursday afternoon, you guys, to be here with us to find out a little bit about waste to energy incineration. All of us probably have different levels of knowledge. So for some of you, this might just be old news. For other people, it might be the first time you've really heard much about it. So yeah, I'll just crack on, and then maybe at the end we can just have a few questions and we can hear a bit. I know there's a few people who are actually involved on the ground with proposals in their area. So yeah, they may be able to contribute where things are at for them as well. So as you will have heard in the news or seen in your districts, these incinerator proposals have been popping up around Aotearoa across the last 5 years. It started down the west coast, then hopped over to Waimate, up into Fielding, Te Awamutu, and now there's talk of one up in the Kaipara. And we've had a lot of communities and councils getting in touch with us over the years, looking for support to understand the costs and the risks and the benefits so that they can make sense of the proposals that are going on the table. And I'm just here today to share a few of the things that we've learned so far. Just getting my click through. Yeah, so what I'm talking about today is proposals to burn mixed solid waste. And as you all know, we have an awful lot of it. Back at the turn of the century, Aotearoa committed to going down the waste reduction path. 2003, we had a waste strategy that was going to take us towards zero waste and a sustainable Aotearoa. And the trouble is that we never implemented that. We didn't create the regulatory framework we needed, and we didn't invest in the infrastructure. And so our massive rubbish piles are attracting the attention of these global incinerator companies, and they're looking to grow their businesses. The proposals that they're putting on the table are basically their sales pitch, and that's a combination of slick marketing and like these massive piles of technical info. And like all marketing collateral, they tend to overstate the benefits and they minimize the costs and risks. And they present incineration as a magic bullet that'll make our waste problems vanish. We don't have a clear position as a country on whether incinerators are a useful addition to our waste infrastructure or not. And so the burden's really falling on communities and councils to try to make sense of the claims that are being made. And transparency has been a massive issue for communities. People have had to really fight just to get the applications publicly notified so the contents of the proposals are available to everyone. And once you do get access to the proposals, there's an awful lot of sense making to do. Andrew Rollinson, who was one of the international experts giving evidence at the fielding hearings, was very critical of the information both in the original application and the information put forward by the independent analysis of the applications. And one of the things that we have to deal with is that we don't have any of these big incinerators in New Zealand at the moment. So we really don't have the in-house capability to assess the proposals that are coming up. And there's a real pattern that we can see. The small districts like Waimate and Waipa are being targeted by these companies. And that's probably because small councils just really don't have the resources they need to be able to properly investigate the claims that are being made. And perhaps it's because the key decision makers in a lot of these small towns really want to believe the claims that are being made about jobs and economic development. So I was at the Infrastructure Commission Symposium a few weeks ago, and the focus was really on how do we get the right infrastructure in place for New Zealand over the next 30 years. As we all know, New Zealand, we've got a long wish list of projects that we want to do. We don't have much capital to invest and we don't have much cash available to pay for the services. We've got limited capability and capacity in the construction workforce. And so we have to ask ourselves these hard questions so that we can prioritize the things we want to build. Where's the CapEx going to come from to build this infrastructure? Where's the OpEx going to come from to run the systems? And how can we manage demand so we don't have to build so much capacity in the first place? Of course, our first question always has to be, will incineration get us where we want to go? And it's pretty clear when you look at the circular economy butterfly diagram and the zero waste hierarchy that burning our rubbish and burying our rubbish are both disposal strategies. Waste disposal is a form of leakage out of the circular economy, and squabbling over the best disposal method just keeps us all staring in the wrong direction. Extracting the resources we use to make all our stuff, it changes land use, it damages ecosystems, it reduces biodiversity, results in soil loss and creates greenhouse gas and pollution. And the problem we're actually trying to solve is going to the top of the hierarchy so we can minimize the amount of material and energy that we pull out of our environment and into our economy. Managing demand for waste infrastructure looks like designing waste and pollution out of the system, designing it out of business models and products so that we can keep materials and products circulating for as long as possible. And if you think about whether incineration is a good fit in the eyes of our Tiriti partners, a critical element of the relationship between people and environment is that active focus on care and regeneration. Parakore, very clear that transitioning to a circular economy is about building an economy that supports well-being for people and the planet. And May Hanaduri made the point at the fielding hearings that we can't afford to invest in industries that create harm. Māori organisations in iwi are being targeted by these companies to secure their support for applications, and this puts a lot of pressure on local hapu and iwi. The current RMA processes are super challenging because the scope's so narrow that key concerns for communities and iwi can't be taken into account. If the application was launched before November 2022, greenhouse gas and climate change implications are not factored into the decision-making process. And until recently, local policy guidance like your WMMPs wasn't considered either. So there's 2 iwi authorities that have supported the calling in of the Te Awamutu incinerator application so that the greenhouse gas and environmental effects can be properly considered. So if you look around the world, and Denmark's often used as a poster child for the success of incineration, but when we actually ask the question of how is it going for these countries that are really heavily invested in incinerators, we find that the leaders in Denmark are saying, if you don't have incinerators already in your country, then invest in higher up in the waste hierarchy. Don't start there. Start with recycling and work your way up. Denmark's got the highest per capita waste generation in Europe after years of incinerator as a solution. It can't meet its emissions reduction targets because burning rubbish creates huge amounts of CO2, and it can't meet its recycling targets because the recycling's all ending up in the incinerators. And they're using a managed retreat from incineration. They've started to shut down their incinerators. The European Union's published a set of definitions to clarify what does and doesn't qualify as sustainable economic activity, and that's to guide finance and investment decisions for countries and the European Union. And incineration's been excluded because it harms the transition to the circular economy. So the economic development angle at the local level is often presented to communities and councils as all upside. The recent Overseas Investment Office decision to approve the land sale to foreign buyers for the proposed Waimate incinerator, it really takes their argument to face value. It goes like this. It says, costs a lot of money to build a big incinerator, a lot of jobs will be created in the construction phase, and then they're just like, ta-da, economic development, and tick it off your list. You know, the reality is that all big buildings full of gadgets cost a lot of money. That's not the same thing as being a benefit to your local economy. Obviously, the company that's stumping up with the capex expects a return on investment, which will be built into the gate fee. So it's really your community that's going to pay for this facility over the next 25 or 30 years, and not the company. And to commit to building an incinerator, the company locks in surrounding communities with long-term supply contracts. And that means all of your money is, or your future revenue, or all of your future income is committed. So you're not able to gradually invest in diversion, reduction, or prevention to reduce waste. So the community has to promise to carry on supplying the incinerator with rubbish to burn for the next 25 or 30 years. And it's a classic buy now, pay later strategy that locks communities into linear waste disposal long term. And the opportunity cost of that is really high. So if your community does happen to have like hundreds of millions of dollars burning a hole in its back pocket, what else could you do with that? If you're looking for reduction and diversion, you can invest that money in establishing systems to enable reuse so that you can get away from single-use packaging. And you could establish a nationwide network of resource recovery centres and local composting facilities. The bones of that is already there across our network. Auckland's been working really hard on building its resource recovery network since 2015, and we know that it's a proven model for engaging communities and local businesses and taking them on a zero-waste journey. If you're looking for jobs, then reuse creates about 300 jobs for every 10,000 tonnes that passes through the system. Recycling creates about 36, and incineration creates 1. We really do want long-term, stable, meaningful work in our communities. And all over Aotearoa, we have practical and successful examples of job creation in the reuse and recycling space. Places like Waitaki Resource Recovery down in Oamaru, Helensville Zero Waste up north of Auckland, or Onehunga Zero Waste in South Auckland. We know it's a model that works. One of the things that these companies say is that, renewable energy, it's going to be, waste to energy part of the waste to energy incineration label is largely a greenwash tactic. Incinerators that burn solid waste are very inefficient. They have to burn a lot of rubbish to produce a very small amount of energy. And the energy they create is not renewable. These incinerators emit large amounts of carbon dioxide. They burn plastics made from fossil carbon that gets counted in our greenhouse gas emissions, and they burn organic material like timber and paper and garden waste, which doesn't. Aotearoa, we're working really hard to decarbonise our electricity supply. And if we want to invest in new energy sources, then it makes way more sense to spend our 350 million on distributed wind and solar, and we would end up with 350 megawatts plus of clean power with very low OPEX cost, rather than spending 350 million on an incinerator, which will get us a tenth of that, about 35 megawatts, but it requires ongoing OPEX costs in the form of gate fees for rubbish disposal. And if you think about the health impacts, are these incinerators really safe? They create solid, liquid, and gaseous byproducts. And for example, incinerators create emissions to air. And the state-of-the-art incinerators that are operating around the world, they are better than the early versions from the 70s or 80s, but they still emit a lot of very small particles of heavy metals and persistent organic pollutants like dioxins and PFAS. Sorry, someone just trying to get in. On a perfect day, these incinerators can meet what they call continuous monitoring standards, which means you monitor them 24/7. But when they're starting up, shutting down, or they have a problem, they can huff out 3 or 4 months worth of pollutants in a single day. In France, they require continuous monitoring, but for example, one of their big French incinerators has its monitors turned off 40% of the time, and you can guess which days they're not running. According to the World Health Organization, the safe level of exposure to dioxins is 0, and their solution to not exposing people to that risk is not to create new sources. We already got hundreds of sites across New Zealand where land's been contaminated by previous industrial activity, and it doesn't make any sense to create new ones, especially in a country which is heavily dependent on primary production. Fonterra submitted against the Te Awamutu incinerator, and they cited concerns about impacts on product quality and as well as the health of their workers. So at the national level, we're seeing some of the big players slowly taking stronger positions on incineration. Te Reo Para, the waste hierarchy, the waste strategy, clearly states that incineration is unlikely to be aligned with our direction of travel. And the Climate Commission has come out to signal that the climate impacts of waste to energy and incineration need really careful consideration. The Waimati application has been called in and referred to the Environment Court at the request of the Waimati District Council and Canterbury Regional Council. And EPA advice to the Minister is that the Te Awamutu application should also be called in. And this is supported by 2 of the iwi authorities, the Council, the Regional Council, as well as the applicants to the process themselves. So based on what we've learned, Zero Waste Network's running a campaign that focuses on regeneration rather than incineration. And you can find a lot of historical information on the proposals, updates on where things are at around the country, and links to the evidence base on our website. We're working really hard to bring the key issues out into the open so our country can make a good decision about next steps. Incineration just doesn't make any sense to us. We know that there's safe, viable, regenerative and fair ways to work towards zero waste, and we're doing our best to use the awkward processes that we have available to us through the RMA, through advocacy and community empowerment to do that. We're calling for a moratorium on waste to energy incineration so that the issues and the evidence can be properly considered at the central level. And yeah, what we know is that if we want to make progress in our sector, we really have to get behind the things that make sense to us. And when we all push at the same time, we can probably get the good decisions that matter to us over the line. So if you want to find out more or know how you can help with the campaign, get in touch, and what everyone is, that will really help you to understand what the issues are before the incinerator guys show up in your town.
Thank you so much. So such an informative presentation, and I found it after WasteMINZ, I found it helpful. I mean, I can't regurgitate everything, but really helpful for having conversations with friends and people who are like, isn't it a great idea?
Yeah, I think that's one of the classic problems with it is when you first hear about it, somebody says, oh, we could just burn all our rubbish and we'll be gone. And you're like, yeah, we could. And then you start to think about it. And what we've noticed through our work is the more people and communities start to dig into it, the worse they feel about it and the more issues start coming to the surface. So that's one of the classic problems with this whole sales pitch idea. You've got these companies coming into towns, they're really broadcasting all the benefits that they see from their point of view. But a lot of the time, the problematic stuff gets just brushed under the carpet and doesn't get discussed. And so it's really been so amazing to see communities around the country like Wai Waste Waimate and the people that have really been fighting against these proposals in the local area. And it's the work that they're doing on the ground to just dig into everything is giving us a lot of really useful information to make the argument.
Lorraine has made a comment here that in her work with children, they often suggest burning rubbish. And when I worked in classes, that was the case too, though I was in the Waikato district, so there's a lot of farming families. And it was interesting you said that Fonterra has opposed it because that, the burn and bury farming culture is alive and well. Yeah, it was great that they opposed it. Does anyone have any questions for Sue? If you'd like to, you can just tap your space bar and it becomes a little microphone. Or feel free to put them in the comments and I can read them out.
Yeah, so I saw one of the things we did at the WasteMINZ event was Lisa and um, Mark from Eunomia did quite a technical presentation about the emissions consequences of incineration and using different types of feedstocks. And that was based on a report that they did for the Waikato maybe end of last year, I think it came out. And so it looks like they might be going to do another webinar which digs into that. But I see Lisa's there. Maybe she'd like to say something a bit about that.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat. So sorry, that was me that had my microphone on and then the car alarm started going outside. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Mark and I did quite a brief presentation on our research at WasteMINZ, and it was really great that WasteMINZ put us just before Sue, because I think the two presentations worked together really, really well, and that we kind of covered off the really technical aspects, and then Sue came in with the really strong social and political messages. And we will be doing a more detailed presentation on that research. And I know I see Fiona's on the call as well. And Fiona, thank you, Fiona. 14th of August, we're scheduled to be doing a more in-depth discussion of that study.
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa. So you can, I can read this question out loud so others can.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
What do you and others find is the most effective angle when advocating to councils and government against incineration?
Well, I think that it depends on who you're talking to. Like some people, obviously, that for the farmers, it's really around that food quality. Being able to guarantee that your product is going to be able to go into the global market or into the local market without any issues. That's really what you can see with that Fonterra decision coming through. For the average person in their community, a lot of the time it's a bit of a trade-off between whether you're somebody who's really thinking about the health impacts, like obviously the dioxins and the chemical compounds which come from these facilities. There's global evidence that the closer you live to an incinerator, the higher the contamination level. So people are really concerned about that if they're very focused on health. And then I think the third thing that's been really successful is just that economic argument that, when companies say, oh, we're going to come and build this amazing thing for you, we're going to bring all these jobs and local economic development, they don't actually say, oh, you actually are going to pay for it over the next 25 years. People get a bit sucked into that, and it's a bit like, go to Harvey Norman's, you've got the couch, but you've actually committed your future income for the next 5 years to pay it off. And it's I think that it's a bit of a horses for courses. It's really, what's the main thing that's front of mind for people in their work or their home life. And yeah, I think that the economic argument is a good one with the councils, because they often get sucked into the idea that they want to create jobs and they want to make a better place, and they buy into that early on, and then they sort of start promoting that before they even get into the discussion about what the problems or issues are. They're like, every mayor wants to bring to their town some new really cool idea about how they're all going to be prosperous and have a happy life forever, and they do really get sucked in easily by these sorts of proposals. So I think that economic argument, the idea that your community is going to pay, whether it's for an incinerator or a recycle system or a solar plant or a community recycle centre, and then if you understand that it's not a free, not going to get a free incinerator, then it starts to become a question about, oh, is that really what we want to spend all of our community's money on for the next 25 years? Oh, maybe it's not. Let's actually have a bit of a deeper think about that. But yeah, I find it sometimes you have to run through a couple of cards in your back pocket before you find the one that really resonates with the person. And so, yeah.
Thank you, Sue. There's another question. Aparita from the Himalayas is tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in. And they have an issue with their government distributing small incinerators. And they were wondering if small incinerators are an issue in New Zealand also.
In New Zealand, we've been through one wave of fighting about incinerators already, and I think I can see Lisa's writing about incinerators at schools. There used to be, incinerators used to be used by lots of New Zealand households. So people would burn rubbish in their back garden. People would burn rubbish at school. You know, the school caretaker will have like an incinerator that would have the smokestack would go out over the school, or same at the hospital. They'd burn all the hospital waste, and the smokestack would just distribute all the the chemical compounds and all that out there into, straight over the top of the hospital. So we went through in about 2000 and generally agreed that incineration at that scale didn't really make much sense. As Sarah said, a lot of farmers are still thinking that burning stuff is a good idea. And if you're in a rural environment where there's not so many neighbours, a lot of people still do use incineration as just basically burning the rubbish from their household. It's taking a long time to educate people that when you burn plastic, it doesn't just magically go away. Actually, there's a lot of chemical compounds that are used in manufacture of plastic, that those things, when you incinerate them, get concentrated rather than magically disappearing. They just, all of the toxins and stuff just go into a smaller and smaller package, so that the ash and the residue and the air emissions, or if you have, it rains, then all of that just gets washed through the stormwater into the local creek. It's really hard for us to get people to understand that. So there are still a lot of people in New Zealand burning their own rubbish. There are still people, really advocating strongly for, these big proposals to burn rubbish. And there's a few pilot projects as well. And so we're really just fighting them on a case-by-case basis and trying to get the word out there that burning stuff is just as bad as burying stuff. And, that they're not, that one is not, an amazingly different or better alternative. They're both the same thing. You lose the resource, you can't use it again for anything productive, and it's much better to think about things up at the top of the hierarchy.
Yeah. Thank you so much. In Himalayas, so there is a lot of difficulty in getting the big incinerators because it requires permissions and all. So what the businesses are doing is that they are getting the small incinerators, because that doesn't have to go through so much of clearance. So now we are dealing with the issue of the small incinerators. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot that we can learn from one another about these struggles, and I think it's so great to have you tuning into our story, and then I guess that some of our team are tuning into what you're doing as well. At the community level, it's hard work being the people that are battling to try to stop these things.
Thank you, Sue. And I also appreciate your reference to Denmark, because often people think that Europe is a success story, and it's interesting to learn that they're moving in here because they're getting kicked out over there. And I had seen one story around a friend in Sweden, maybe, that said that there was just so much advertising and packaging, and consumerism was encouraged with tons more packaging because they had to continue feeding the beast. So the culture of consumerism downstream gets ramped up to be highly packaged, to literally create the kai, to feed the kai's a too nice a word, to create stuff to keep feeding the beast. So it's like the reverse of us trying to work up the ladder of reduce, reuse, rethink, refuse. The complete opposite of that.
I think that's one of the really big problems with incinerators. It's just like, the landfill, or, if something is just taken away and you don't have to look at it or deal with it anymore, then you don't really put any energy into solving that problem. You think that it's already gone. And that story of away, it's gone away, so I don't have to face my own complicity and buying and using a whole lot of stuff which is very short life or single use, is very problematic with the incineration story. We know that extraction to get hold of the virgin materials and the new energy to make all the stuff is what's really causing the problems. The landfill and incineration aren't themselves the problem. They're only a symptom of a problem that we have, which is that we're just sucking way too much out of the environment and into our economy. And we have to actually change the way that we use resources and materials, make much more efficient use of them, and accept that we need to have a lot less coming through if we want to solve things like biodiversity, pollution, and ecosystem damage. We really have to be looking upstream. And so when I'm saying, arguing about whether burning or burying is better just keeps us really focused on, you know, the problem rather than going, oh, hang on a minute, let's look up and see, you know, there's so many different ways we could reduce the amount of material coming into our system, make better use of what we are pulling in. And that needs to be where all our energy and attention is going, rather than, you know, squabbling over whether we're going to burn it or bury it and thinking that that's actually some form of useful conversation.
Yeah. So, like the right to repair bill.
Yeah, exactly.
Repairing
Yeah.
our things.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And thank you so much, Sue. This presentation is recorded, so those of you who joined midway through Sue's presentation, then you can tune into that. We'll put it up on Zero Waste Network has a YouTube channel, so we'll be loading it up to that, and you can leave some comments in there. I don't know actually who yet who will be monitoring those, but please do. And of course, get in touch with us at the network if you want to support or donate towards this cause, or learn more and advocate more. So thank you, Sue.
Yeah, and the other thing we'll do is we'll put up what we've been trying to do is create a set of notes and some slides that people can use anywhere to be able to, you know, make the case or to be able to use this information to talk to others. And so we'll put a copy of the presentation and the notes up on our website as well, so people can get it. There should be one on the WasteMINZ website, you know, if people are looking there.
Yeah, we've got a resources area on our website for members. Thanks, Sue. I'm going to invite Ali Kirkpatrick to present. Now, Ali did a Petra at WasteMINZ, and I'm one of those people who was at the conference that missed this one. So I'm looking forward to tuning in and hearing all about FillGood, which sounds like amazing initiative, so far up my alley, down in Wellington. So thank you, Ali, and then we'll do some questions afterwards.
Worries. Kia ora koutou. I've actually taken the timing off the Petra just to make it a bit more relaxed.
Yes,
it was pretty
yes,
hardcore. It was pretty hardcore at WasteMINZ. All right, I'm going to share my screen. That one. See if it works. All righty, can everyone see that one? Awesome. All righty. Okay, close your eyes. Everybody close your eyes. Imagine a world where the term single use is nothing but a relic of the past. A world where circularity and reuse are so common and normalized that we don't have to explain what reuse is to anyone anymore. A world that has embraced a true circular economy. You can open your eyes now. Kia ora. Welcome to your future. Welcome to the reuse revolution. Welcome to FillGood. FillGood is a non-for-profit, citywide reusable serviceware system. Oh, it's not changing. Hang on. There we go. Serviceware system that is revolutionizing event food and drink serviceware into Whanganui Atara. Initiated in 2021 by major event spaces and Wellington Zero Waste advocates, FillGood is changing the event landscape through collaboration and the needs of our community. We are a collective of partners helping events reduce their impact on the planet and providing Wellington with a simple, reusable serviceware solution. Communities worldwide are taking bold steps by crafting policies and long-term strategies aimed at eliminating single-use packaging. Their vision is clear: to usher in lasting change through the adoption of circular and reusable models. From Seattle to Singapore, Germany to Adelaide, governments at local and national levels are starting to see the impact of generations of sweeping waste under the carpet and are coming to the realization that we need to implement legislative change. Last year, the Byron Bay Shire Council in New South Wales introduced a policy that will see the elimination of single-use packaging in council buildings and on council-managed land. This means that by December this year, event organisers will need a reusable option if they are to serve food and beverages in buildings or on land owned by the council. Changing. In April 2023, our own council in Paniki released their zero waste strategy aiming to achieve intergenerational sustainability by moving to a circular economy. This is going to be achieved by anchoring into 6 zero waste principles: reduction of waste, community participation, materials reuse, culture change, proximity principles, and resilient waste systems. Wellington City Council are one of FillGood's key stakeholders, encouraging a reciprocal relationship that aims to put Wellington back on the map for innovation and creativity and to aid in the success of their zero waste strategy. Surrounded by the mountains and the sea, Wellington is an innovative city that cares deeply about nature, bird life, and being able to sit on our very windy beaches at least one day of the year. We have a deep sense of community and a deep respect for Papatūānuku. Reuse is not a new thing in the city. We have communities and businesses that have followed and encouraged reuse practices for years. The key thing they have been missing to having lasting impact is the infrastructure and a shared and overarching system and brand to truly support them. In 2021, the Ministry for the Environment released the Plastic Innovation Fund, a $50 million investment fund to support projects that reimagined how we make, use, and dispose of plastics. The fund was created to minimize plastic waste, support circular solutions, protect the environment from harm, support the reduction of imported plastics, and to improve the behaviour of people and businesses. With 3 years of funding from the MFE Plastic Innovation Fund, Ministry of Culture and Heritage, Wellington City Council, Wellington Regional Stadium Trust, and various other stakeholders, the Sustainability Trust put up their hand to mobilise the project and to invest in and to grow a reusable serviceware system that all Wellington event holders can book and use with ring-fence capacity for community events. Investing in infrastructure is pivotal for establishing a functional reusable serviceware system. Historically, reuse models within the city have been confined within their own systems, hindered in scalability due to lack of accessible equipment and having to ship large fleets across the country to be sanitised. However, with the introduction of FillGood, we'll not only be able to develop a tailored system for our city, but also empower existing models to expand. This presents a unique opportunity to establish standardisation, emphasising citywide branding and comprehension, as well as implementing reverse logistics. Looking ahead, our vision includes establishing a network of washing hubs across the city, facilitating reuse in diverse settings, ranging from local school fairs to large-scale events and even our airport. Our aspirations are ambitious. By endeavouring to align our models as closely as we can to the current PR3 standards, we're creating a world-class system with ease of function, accessibility, social equity, and most importantly, scalability. A system that we can grow and develop over the next 5 years, allowing us to create a citywide system, the first of its kind in the world. The project has been broken into 3 phases. Phase 1. Work with funders and key stakeholders to set up the first node, a washing up facility in the bowels of Sky Stadium. Purchase and install key infrastructure, a commercial dishwasher, drying infrastructure, fleets of cups, reusable bowls, plates and coffee cups, a transport vehicle and a mobile washing trailer. Phase 2. Work with funders and key stakeholders to grow and support the first node while expanding and building our network by creating a series of nodes across the city to support reuse in all event spaces and beyond. Continue to grow our fleet and our scope to include hospitality businesses and offering washing infrastructure to reuse systems outside of food and beverages. And finally, phase 3, work with funders and key stakeholders to create citywide collection points, networks of infrastructure and a self-sustaining, organically growing system that can be a blueprint that other cities can take and use. In February and March this year, we embarked on our first pilot, partnering with the Aotearoa New Zealand Arts Festival, Wellington Venues, and SSC Catering. Together, we introduced reusable cups to the St James Theatre and Tawhiti Warehouse for the duration of the Arts Festival. We also partnered with Everybody Eats, Kaibosh, and Seeds to Feast to deliver reusable plates for their Te Aro Eats community meals as part of Cuba Duper, which is one of Wellington's iconic street festivals. Over the 36 events, we distributed just under 4,000 reusable cups and over 770 plates to our partners. We relied on a trust-based systems for both of the pilots and achieved a 92.5% return rate on our cups and a 100% return rate on our bowls and plates. The simplicity of our system was its strength, fostering engagement with both the audience and venue staff. The feedback we received from our partners and attendees was overwhelmingly positive, reinforcing the effectiveness and importance of our collective efforts. These pilots not only exemplified our commitment to sustainability, but also underscored the power of collaboration in creating meaningful change within our community. Globally, the onset of reuse is upon us. What hippies and high-vis vests, hand-sorting rubbish at festivals have been dreaming about for years is becoming a reality. We can no longer band-aid waste with linear models literally sweeping it under the carpet. We need to move up the waste hierarchy and recreate models and systems to move us towards a circular way of being. With the support of national and local government, businesses and community, Aotearoa is the perfect place to develop and implement new ways of being in the world. I suggest that you hop aboard the reuse train, because in the game of sustainability, when you snooze, you lose. Reuse is the new reality. Cheers to the future. So much easier without the timing on it.
Well done. That sounds amazing and awesome. Thank you for your mahi so far, Ellie. And
Oh, it's not all mine. There's a lot of us behind this project. It's not just me.
Do we have any questions from the group? Feel free to either raise your hand or press the space bar to take yourself off mute. Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
While people are formulating their own. With the different nodes, I loved that map. The visual was really great. Were those nodes for the public to interact with? So like if I got a smoothie downtown and then went to Zealandia, does that mean I can do a drop off there?
In the ultimate vision, yeah. It would mean that you could buy your smoothie somewhere and then drop your cup somewhere else, and we would just facilitate all the pickup points. Yeah. And
has there been a focus? I love that you've trialed it with the arts festival. Being a high-vis hippie, sorting through waste stations myself, it's often events that people who otherwise may have a reusable will opt for single use in an event setting. Are you prioritizing doing more events, or is it for
I think the hook for Wellington was the event sector, because it's so prolific down here, but that's just the beginning. And actually I think for us, because so many of the events are quite closed, like when you do an event at the St. James, it's a closed space, so it's really easy to put in a reuse system, and there's actually no excuse that there's not one there already. And I think that's the blessing here, is that we can grow from that event space. Yeah.
Awesome. And those plates were really lovely too. I love that you got a full return rate on those enamel bougie plates that I'm sure
they're bougie, aren't they? Yeah.
Flats would like to have. Oh, here's a great question from Polly. Thanks for tuning in, Polly. Can you tell everyone what is next for FillGood over the next few months? And
what is next for FillGood over the next few months?
So what has been some unexpected applications of FillGood?
Has there?
Like maybe some challenges?
I'm going to read Polly's question.
Challenges that have come up?
Okay, I understand. I know what she's asking now. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good prompt.
Yeah, so at the moment we're focusing in, we're waiting for our cup fleet to arrive in the country. So we're currently focusing in on our washing trailer, which has just got the big old tech from Wellington Water, so we can use it out and about in the wild, which is really exciting. So we're kind of building, she's a secondhand washing trailer and she has some personality issues. So we're learning how to get the best out of her right now. So going forward, hopefully we'll start to see that trailer out at the more regular events like Harbourside markets in the very near future, hopefully. And then interestingly enough, and probably Polly and Hannah, who have, instrumental in this all happening, had thought of this stuff, but we're having people reach out to us that I didn't expect. Like we're doing a toolbox talk, providing all the serviceware for the Living Pa, which is the new building that Vicky Uni are building. And we've got some film studios reaching out about coffee cups. So there's all these other little arms that I was very much focused on events, because that was sort of like, it's my mahi is event. So, but to have all these other little things popping up is really exciting.
It's really validating that the system can be implemented in other places, I bet.
Yeah, there has to be a flexibility to it, right?
And how do they know about it already? What
That's a great question.
Out there And where can people follow you, follow this project online? What's
So
your
we haven't
Instagram handle?
officially launched yet. So we're
Okay.
looking to hard launch later at the year when our cups have arrived, and we're sort of in a very much we piloted, we learnt lots from our pilots, and we're just sort of working through all of that and then building our system from what we learnt. I'm not 100% sure where people are seeing us. The Living Par was an internal connection, so that, but I'm not 100% sure where the film peeps found us. We've had a few like people from within the sustainability kind of network send people our way, but we're not out on social media or anything yet. It's still we're just keeping the D low for a bit longer.
Yeah.
I
And I'm
was
sure
wondering,
that go, sorry.
is it okay? Yeah, sorry, I just launched it. I couldn't find the hand raising tool. Yeah, I was wondering, Ellie, you're saying the council is a partner. What sort of ways, you had some good examples of how councils are enabling or requiring people to do certain things. What's Wellington Council doing that's useful to you guys at the moment?
Mostly like a lot of support. Obviously there's funding for sure.
Yeah.
But the waste team are full of support, and they're definitely hooking us up with the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that idea of requiring people to use reusable services in public spaces and stuff like that is maybe a second tier thing, something that's going to happen a bit further along the line once you get everything going. Yeah.
I mean, I think the example of Byron Bay is really exciting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're probably one of the first councils down this end of the world that has pushed forward with that. And the interesting thing with them is, and my friend works over there, but we're going the opposite way. So they're going policy down, we're going infrastructure up.
Yeah.
And at some point we're going to meet in the middle, and it's going to be this really juicy point of like where we can share all the knowledge we have with each other, as they try and build their infrastructure, and we try and encourage policy down, right?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ellie,
sorry, can I just chip in something else on the council support?
hi,
sorry
Polly.
for just butting in. I think people listen to us more because we have the support of the council behind us right from the get-go. So it's a really good when we're engaging with other stakeholders to be kind of taken seriously, that we've got the backing of the council and some other big players in the working group and advisory group like Sky Stadiums and Venues Wellington.
Awesome.
I'll shut up now.
You're fine. Ellie, we do have a question from Lorraine around how it all works financially, and especially if you're starting growing really quickly. Are you reliant on funding, or is there would there be a charge for services in future?
I think the joy of the funding we have is that because it's from the Plastic Innovation Fund, it's an innovative project, right? So we have 3 years of funding where we can actually try different cost models, and we can pilot different things, and work out what works best. At the moment, for our pilots, we're basically charging a per item price, which is the same as a single-use price, just to make it a little bit more tantalizing for the catering companies who are using it. But moving forward, our cost models are starting to really shape up. So sort of by, I would say, next summer, we'll be able to charge actual established rates for what we're offering.
Which then, those charges then, when it's rented out, will there be a charge to the customer sort of thing, do you imagine?
So yeah, so there's different models we're looking at. One model is that the charge would be with the event promoter, and then it will be up for them to on-charge that cost to their vendors, or a leasing model where we would actually lease a fleet of cups to a venue, and they could just pay month by month. A model where we're working directly with food vendors, where they would pay an upfront cost for the fleet, and then when they return to it, they would get refunded. So there's lots of different ways of doing it, and we're sort of, ideally, we will have the flexibility within the system to offer a variety of cost models. Yeah.
Sorry for chipping in again, Ali, but do you want to mention just about the idea of it, the being not for profit, being able to support the community aspect?
Yeah. that's why I have Polly, because she reminds me of things. So ideally, I mean, a lot of the the mahi is to support community events and Māori kaupapa events. So ideally, the bigger kind of corporate events we do will actually help to co-fund the smaller events, so we can offer the system to everybody, from like, you know, the aunties at the church right through to sort of a Cuba Duper kind of thing. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Well, congrats on the Plastic Innovation Fund funding and it's great to see different options being explored, you know, and hopefully, yeah, we need reuse systems to be tested so that they can be rolled out in cities and towns. I know from living in Raglan, we're always wanting to get sterilizers and things going because so much goes round and round there. There's no need for single-use coffee cups and smoothie cups there. So it'd be interesting to see how it could link into smaller communities as well in the future. But for now, congrats for Wellington and all the best. And of course, we're here to support. And I'll be waiting for the socials link.
Yeah, great.
But I did see that, so Sustainability Trust website, you can go and read more about all of their awesome projects, and they do have a web page there about FillGood, so you can find more info over there. Is it .org on the URL?
I think it's I should know. I think it's .co.nz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can use a search engine. Don't know who types in a full URL anymore these days.
Would email me.
Yeah, or email Ellie, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone. Were there any other comments or questions that anyone had? Okay, we've had a awesome mahi, yes. Big applause for everyone, or snaps. Thank you for tuning in for our second of our return of webinars, and we hope to do more webinars from Zero Waste Network, sharing ideas and knowledge and asking questions as well. And if any of you have a story or something to share that you'd like to, please get in touch with me. Or if you have a question about membership, I am members at zerowaste.co.nz. And thank you for coming, and I hope you all have an amazing Matariki, beautiful time of reflection and hope and planning for the new year. Drive safe if you're traveling anywhere, but thank you for tuning in. And hey, you guys have all got 6 minutes bonus time in your lives right now. What on earth are we going to do with it? So thank you muchly. Ka kite anoa to everyone. Thank you, Sue. Thank you. You're on mute.
Yeah, good job. That was awesome. People seemed happy with it. So yeah, that's great.
I'll just